What's up? Today I'm going to talk about another book that I really like, and that is Don Miguel Ruiz's The Four Agreements. I actually just wrote a blog post about this book and the two main lessons I learned from it, but I'm kind of experimenting right now with doing kind of book reviews on my blog and also doing them on video. And in an effort to try and make more videos and vlogs in general, I'm going to keep doing both and see which one I prefer. Maybe I'll keep doing them. Some people like to read, some people like to watch things, so we'll see. If I had to describe this book in one word, it would just be simple. Not simple as in stupid, but simple as in very straightforward. So the four agreements are as follows. The first one is be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. And 4, always do your best. Really simple, really straightforward. I would say that once I looked past kind of some of the more esoteric, spiritual talk that was in the book, this ended up being the most straightforward and to the point self-help book I've ever read. A lot of the self-help books you can find are very complicated in the sense that there's so much stuff you have to do to remember, so many ways to change your thoughts and your beliefs. So finding a book that's just very straightforward and with 4 agreements only was kind of I guess a nice relief from the normal kind of self-help stuff. Doing a lessons learned post on this book is a little bit difficult actually, because the lessons are literally just the 4 agreements. So I just talked about them. I guess I can end the video here. Just kidding. What I'm actually going to do is talk about my two favorite agreements from the book and how they've affected my life. The first agreement that had a positive effect on my life was don't take anything personally. What I really liked about this agreement was the way Don Miguel Ruiz kind of painted the picture of how people think. So he basically says that everybody is living in their own kind of dream, I guess you could say. And I think dream, another word for it would be narrative. We've all got our own story in our head about our lives. So in my story, I'm the star, and pretty much everything that happens is I relate it to me. And everybody else in the story, so my friends, family, the people I work with, strangers, they're all kind of just co-stars. Some have big roles, some have little roles, but for the most part, everyone walking around, they're just kind of like stand-ins, I guess you could say, like the little people you see walking in the background of movies. So that sounds kind of mean, but I think that's kind of an accurate depiction of how most people view the world. We all each have our own little story going on. So when people act or do things in a negative way, so whether it be being rude or lashing out at you, or you can even go as extreme as killing somebody. When people do these things, it's not because of who you are or what you did to them first necessarily. It's because of what's going on inside of them, what their story is. When I first read this book, I was working at a women's clothing store at the time. And as anyone who has worked customer service probably knows, customers can be pretty rude. On a daily basis, I was dealing with 10 to 20 pretty difficult customers, people mad about coupons, or people just in a bad mood in general. Not saying thank you, giving attitude, being very dismissive. So needless to say, it was a very tough situation, and it took a lot of patience and self-control not to argue or lash out back at the customers. But when I read this book, and this agreement in particular, it kind of made me realize that all these people, all these customers who maybe were being rude or dismissive towards me, they weren't doing it because they didn't like me. They were doing it because they just weren't happy. Maybe something was going on in their life. Maybe their dog just died. Maybe they just had a shitty day. And I know when I have a shitty day, being polite to people isn't necessarily my first priority. So this agreement really helped me take a step back and not take things so personally. I could look at somebody's actions and say, I may not like it and it may hurt, but I don't need to treat it as something that you are doing to me personally. The second agreement that has had a pretty big effect on my life is the last one, which is always do your best. Now, that's a very cliche thing that we all hear from our parents and our coaches. Do your best and everything will work out. Well, we kind of know that's not true, but in a way, it is the most true advice that you could give somebody. I really loved how Don Miguel Ruiz kind of described doing your best. He doesn't say do your best in the kind of happy-go-lucky, sense that we just talked about. He really says that every day you're gonna have different levels that you're operating at. Some days your best will be outstanding. Other days your best will be mediocre. So it's always varying, always shifting, because the world is always changing. So doing your best is really about looking at each moment and regardless of how you're feeling, saying, what can I do now that is to the best of my ability? I definitely have perfectionist tendencies at times. When I do something, for example, making this video, I kind of want the end result to be perfect, or I imagine things in a certain way and I really want them to turn out that way. So that can cause a lot of distress because perfection is impossible. When I read this agreement, it kind of, in a way, just took a load off my shoulders. Realizing that my best is really all I can do, and that it's okay for my best to be different at different times. I think it's like common sense, but I don't know. It's just a light bulb went off in my head, and for the first time, I was like, okay, it's okay to just do what I can do. So now when I'm working on something, when I remember to keep this advice in mind, I can just kind of take a step back if I find myself getting frustrated and say, okay, what's the best I can do in this moment? So in this video, can I do a perfect video without stuttering or losing my train of thought? No, I can't, but that's all right. My best is the effort that I'm gonna put forward to finishing the video or to speaking as clearly as possible. I really hope that these lessons I just talked about can be as valuable to you as they have been to me. I really recommend checking out this book. I know it's simple. It could sound a little juvenile almost. It's so simple, but I think it's a nice kind of respite from or respite, I don't even know what the correct pronunciation. I'm doing my best though. It's a nice little break from the typical very dense self-help stuff that you might be used to. I know that I'm used to. So definitely check it out, and I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching and see you soon.